Yo, 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 we are back for Bleacher Boys Sport Podcast. It's your host, Bryan Hill, and my co host, Gavin Murphy. How are you doing, brother?
Man, living the dream. Living the dream. Another Sunday, another podcast. How about you?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm coming off of 18 rounds of golf in Tunica, Mississippi yesterday, and I golfed nine on Friday. I think I hit 95 on Friday and then got it down to 93. So I'm almost at my first goal of getting down to breaking 90. I really think next time I get out there, I'll break 90 no matter what the course is. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Been chronically dehydrated, cannot drink enough water as hot as it's been. But it's still been fun, and I'm loving this continual golf evolution. How about you, man?
Yeah, no, man. I have not been lucky enough to play yet. The weather here has been crazy. I don't know what you guys are rocking with over there, but it feels like every damn day, dude. It's like you think it's gonna rain, it doesn't rain, and then when you don't think it's gonna rain, it absolutely shits, and you're just like, what's going on? But yeah, nah. Just I'm ready to get back out on the course. Plus, it's so damn hot.
Yeah,
It's too damn hot. And then for what people are wanting to play, like that's my other problem. Like here, like for people, like for what people charge, it's almost like you're better off getting a membership somewhere. I just need to try to find somewhere. But like
yeah,
you don't want to drive an hour to go play, 18 holes. It's like
yeah,
you don't want to do that every single weekend,
yeah.
which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. I'll figure something out here soon and get back into the swing of things because I need to get back out on the course and get playing again.
Man, I was thinking while I was out playing, especially on Friday. Friday, I like completely sweat through my clothes in nine holes of golf, and I was like, man, like I know this is the same weather we played travel ball in, but it just doesn't feel like it. I don't know what is different. It's just if it's an age thing. I was like, I stay way better hydrated and have way better nutrition now than I did when I was 15, 16, 17 years old. But it just I don't know how I could play 3 to 4 games a day for 3 to 4 days in a row, and then two games a day for 5 days in a row at perfect game tournament.
Oh, dude, that's what my dad tells me all the time. Like when I start complaining about like how hot it is, he's like,
Yeah.
"Dude, you used to catch like double headers and like Florida heat in the summer. Like, what are you talking about? You're hot." Like I'm like, dude, I'm just hot. Like I don't know what to tell you. It's blazing out here.
All right, brother. Well, let's jump. Well, hey, how was the traffic in Atlanta with it being All Star Weekend for baseball? Not weekend, but
Man,
week.
yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, the when you got around the stadium, it was rough. What a lot of people don't realize is, or don't, I guess, don't remember, is that when they took it from Turner and they took it up to Marietta, the MARTA doesn't run up there. So the only way to get there really is by car, which I know like and people have mixed feelings like in the Atlanta area about it because they love Turner because you get the MARTA, but it was just in such a bad part of town, dude. Like
Yeah,
that part of town was just starting to get rough and wasn't becoming very safe, and so that was like the biggest thing. And so then when they moved it, that's probably like the one downside about this stadium is there's no like MARTA access.
yeah.
But yeah, when you started to get close to the stadium, traffic was insane. But outside, it wasn't too bad. I'm curious, dude, like a year from now, when the World Cup is here,
Oh
how
yeah,
insane it's going to be. It's going to be, and I mean, it's going to be stupid.
yeah. All right, brother. Well, let's jump right into it. We'll start with kind of a non, like, I guess, traditional sports topic, but something relative to us is Shannon Sharpe, who is a big, big dog, big player in the world we are trying to penetrate into, which is sports podcasting. He's been doing it for a long time. I think he's been between broadcasting, doing debate shows, and podcasting. I want to say he's been at it for about getting close to like 20 years now, if not a little bit longer than that. So he's definitely one of the guys that's just like top of the field, top of the game, and definitely an elite of the field we're trying to get into. But for those in the audience who aren't aware, back I believe it was about 8 weeks, 7, 8 weeks ago, Shannon Sharpe was accused of sexual allegations against a young lady that he claimed to have a consensual sexual relationship with. And the crazy thing is, he originally tried to give her a buyout of $10 million to allow this whole thing to go away. Shannon Sharpe has taken hiatus from ESPN and said he'd be coming back in August. A lot of people thought that was really him just trying to save face and signing off, but maybe he knew a lot more than we did, and I think that's the case. And so she ended up trying to sue him for a full 50 million. And just recently, I believe about 48 hours ago, he was acquitted of all charges, and he is paying nothing out of pocket except the legal fees that he owes his lawyers.
Uh-huh.
The 50 million is nothing to sneeze at. 10 million is nothing to sneeze at. But for him to be able to get off 50 million, is pretty nuts. And I think the only true negative to come out of this was he had like $100 million podcast deal on the line from him in June. So it would be interesting to see if maybe they go ahead and go through that, and if he gets back on ESPN, because he is definitely one of the more notable guys on ESPN, and as they're continuing to evolve and take their company in a different direction. But man, what are your thoughts, if any, on that? And how do you feel about the whole situation?
Uh, it's tough. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in a better situation than that damn CEO or whatever. I mean, at least he
Yeah.
ain't got a wife at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, man, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know. It was something my parents always told me. I mean, of course, I'm not at that status or never was at that status. But I'm sure you were raised the right way, and I'm sure your parents told you the same thing. But you got to protect yourself because nobody else is going to. And it's almost one of those things where people in this world sometimes they see who you are or how you dress or what you have, and they think that they can get something out of that. And I'm not saying that was this woman's intention at all. In the beginning, it might have been, hey, she just, wanted to get some good pipe cleaning, and he offered a good service, and that's what it was. And then he said he didn't want to clean the pipes anymore, and now she got mad or whatever it might be. But good to see, man, that, it was nothing crazy. It was nothing, detrimental to his character or his brand. And he's going to come out on the other side of it. I do enjoy watching his own podcast that he has, where he does his little interviews and everything. I find those to be really enjoyable from time to time. So good to see him come out on the other side and kind of looks to be a little clean, and hopefully he can move forward in the right direction.
Yeah. I think it's just valuable lesson. Unless you're Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yeah.
leave the young ladies alone. Um, I talk to a lot of my clients are older than me, and a lot of them have kids in their teens or 20s. I always tell, like, man, I think a rule of thumb, if you're somebody who has money, that you should just stay away from dating women who are younger than your oldest daughter.
Hmm.
And I get it. You got the whole Bill Belichick thing. We're not going down that road again. Who knows how that's going to turn out? But I think that should just be a rule of thumb. If you date women who aren't who aren't younger than your daughter, more times than not, you'll stay out of a lot of trouble. Um, man, let's pivot from that to some more sports news. I think one of the more notable free agent, or not even free agent deal, but just football transaction was T.J. Watt of the edge rusher for the Pittsburgh Steelers signing a very lucrative deal, a 3 year extension. I know he was trying to look for a 4 or 5 year extension. I believe he's 30 years old, so he's 1 year older than Myles Garrett. But he becomes the highest non-quarterback contract in NFL history at about $41 million per year. And I know we were kind of talking off camera of like, but I want to hear your thoughts of one, how do you feel about the deal? How do you feel like about TJ Watt as a player? And does this make the Steelers better? Do they stay the same? Or is this a bad deal for the Steelers?
No, I don't think it's a bad deal. I don't. And correct me if I'm wrong, but TJ's been there his entire career, correct?
Correct.
He's been in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, I don't think it's a bad deal, man. You keep a homegrown kind of guy there. I like it. I'm not gonna say that it. I won't say that it keeps the Steelers the same. I think it does make them a little bit better. I'm not ready to buy the stock in yet. I know a lot of people are jumping on the train in the sports media world, and you're seeing people starting to buy heavy stock. I'm not going to buy the stock just yet. I will say the wallet is open though, and I could definitely get on board with what's going on there. But good for TJ Watt, man. He got him what he didn't get exactly what he wanted, but he still got a bag. I think he's a top end edge rusher, still in the league at the age that he's at, and so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the dust settles, with the George Pickens out and, the pieces that they've added and everything that's kind of in the works in Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be an interesting year there, and I think we might be surprised looking back on this podcast.
Yeah, I think when we start seeing that the Pittsburgh brass was going in a different direction, just more in their approach and their spending and kind of their team philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
they've been number one in defensive spending for like 9 or 10 years running now. I think since the Legion of Boom's Seattle Seahawks. So since that era has kind of been the thing, they've been leading the league in spending on the defensive side, and now it seems like a lot of their money outside of T.J. Watt is being spent on the offensive side, bringing in
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers, bringing in D.K. Metcalf, brought in offensive linemen. How they utilize, I think 4 of their draft picks were on the offensive side. Although I think they got a good defensive tackle and another young edge rusher in the draft as well. But I think when we saw all those moves and that they're still in very much in a win now mode and
Mm-hmm.
he finally want to break that playoff streak, I think TJ kind of had them by the balls and he was kind of like, hey, if y'all want to do what y'all are hoping to do, y'all 100% need me and you're going to need to compensate me adequately prop for that. And I think this was a good deal because they aren't paying TJ for what he deserved, as in they're not like back paying him. They are paying him because they think him along with Myles Garrett are going to continue to be a top 3 defensive player of the year candidate going forward outside of the quarterbacks like Stingley, Patrick Surtain, but of edge rushers, I think they foresee TJ still being a top 3 to 4 pass rusher for the next couple of years. So you're going to have to pay him for that, and he is 100% what a Steeler is, and he's the heartbeat of that team. He is the number one leader of that team, along with Highsmith. So I just think culture-wise, and like, what kind of message are you sending to your locker room if you let a guy that's going to be a future Hall of Famer in a Steeler uniform go? When he has not really shown any drop off,
Uh-huh.
even at his age in his career. So I think this was a good deal on both sides, and I'm glad they get the deal done. And we'll see how the Pittsburgh Steelers do. Again, right now, I have them at worst still making the playoffs,
Uh-huh.
possibly winning that division. So we'll see how they do going forward. And this will be one of the teams that I have highlighted watching every week.
Yeah, no, and I think it's really interesting, man. I think a lot of people forget this, and in a sports world that we live in where like rebuilds are so common, you kind of got to give kudos to the Steelers brass for not going into full rebuild after, Roethlisberger, uh, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio
Antonio
Brown.
Brown.
You never felt like they full on went to like a full rebuild. It's always kind of been like these little soft ones. And if you even want to use the term rebuild, but there's just a soft reset, I guess
Yeah.
would be a better term. So I'm curious, man. I think you're right. I think they're going to be a team that a lot of people are going to be highlighted to look at every single week and see how they're doing.
Yeah. All right, so let's stay in football, but let's transition to a more interesting topic at the time, which is the fact that flag football is going to be in the Olympics, the next Olympics, which is in 2028. Yes, in 2028. And I know one of the more polarizing topics are who is going to represent the USA for the flag football team. And you have a lot of the elite flag football players who are saying they're the ones that actually play the sports. They know the nuances. They have the best talent for what that individual sport of flag football entails, and they should be the ones who should be able to have their own tryout and represent the team. And then you have, and I know I really haven't had any NFL players come out and say it. I know some players like Patrick Mahomes have been asked about it. I believe Lamar Jackson has been asked about it, and they were like, man, it would be cool to represent your country in flag football. And if we're asked, sure, I'd love to play. But it's really been more of the flag football guys who've been very insistent that like we should be the ones, being
Uh-huh.
able to play and represent the country. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Olympic Committee goes about that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, will there be a tryout? Because like the basketball team, which is probably the most comparable representation, because even when they had baseball and softball in the Olympics, that was just a selected team. There was no tryouts. But even the Olympic team, they kind of have a trials team, and they do some form of a informal tryout before they actually select the team. Even though everybody knows they still pretty much handpick the team, but football is more nuanced because I think they have 7 guys on the field. Pretty sure
You talking about the flag football?
flag
Yeah.
football, yeah. So you have 7 guys, and it is a different. Even though it's kind of like 7-on-7, like a lot of these 7-on-7 camps, flag football does have a little bit more nuance to it. It's not a
Uh-huh.
tick for tack thing. But before I give my full on take on it, what are your thoughts on it, and how do you feel like it should go about? And one, are you even excited to see what flag football would be in the Olympics?
I think, and this is going to be the tough part that's going to have to be discussed, and it's going to be the closed doors discussions, with the Olympic committees and everything like that. Is what is going to be the end goal? Are you trying to take flag football everywhere, or are you trying to draw more attention to professional NFL football? I think if it's one of those things where you're trying to take flag football kind of everywhere, then yeah, go let the damn flag football guys play it. Who gives a shit? Let them have their little moment in the spotlight. Who cares? If you're trying to draw more NFL, yeah, you need to have the NFL guys. And here's the thing, like, let's just be very brutally honest here. I'm not saying that these flag football professionals aren't good athletes, but the NFL guy is a far superior athlete than anybody else when it comes to being on a football field. And the best comparison I would almost have to it is like with the ASUL and softball right now. And they said, "Oh, we're going to make softball an Olympic sport." And you had, these college players trying to say we should be the ones going instead of the professionals. It just doesn't really make sense. I mean, I get where they're coming from. That's what they do. They're professionals, whatever. But I just think it's going to be really interesting to see what route the Olympic Committee kind of goes towards, I guess, if that makes any sense. Because I even think back to like Jordan and like Team USA and how popular he was going overseas and how much more. I mean, dude, you see somebody from overseas and it's all over, Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bulls. You see Bulls hats. I mean, that's the most probably one of the biggest recognizable logos, even Kobe Bryant
Yeah.
with the Lakers. But you just have all this stuff. So very interesting to see the politics side of the Olympic Committee and where they go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think more than anything, this is going to be a political move, and I like the point you made about it. Something I think about is always the Mark Cuban argument, because Mark Cuban is very much against NBA players playing in the Olympics because the owners take all the risks. Because
Mm-hmm.
if it, and if I stand corrected, the only player really to serve a major injury uh, playing Olympic ball was Paul George, because
Mm-hmm.
that was when he actually snapped his leg.
Yeah.
A couple of guys have had like multi-month injuries, but have not missed a season. They've had like I know a couple of knee injuries and a couple like hip pointers and stuff like that. But Paul George really been the only notable one that had a major, potentially career-ending injury happen playing Olympic ball. And that wasn't even in the Olympics. That was while they were still practicing and scrimmaging. But it's still Mark Cuban is 100% right. The owners of the franchises and those franchise teams are the ones truly taking on the risk, because even the Olympic Committee is not going to have enough insurance that if a younger player, if SGA is Canadian,
Mm-hmm.
if Paolo Bencaro, or Cooper Flag, who may be on the next Olympic basketball team, if they get hurt, the Olympic Committee probably doesn't have enough money in the bank to pay the Orlando Magic back the 50 million or 60 million
Yeah.
dollar salary that Paolo would miss for that year. if he does, unfortunately get hurt. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one side you have to look at is like football is even a bigger, more popular sport, not worldwide, but in America.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball much bigger international sport, obviously, and but I feel like football owners even probably even more than basketball would be like, I don't want Justin Jefferson, who already has a history of bad hamstrings, out there playing against a bunch of Joe Schmoes who are probably going to try to make a name off of Justin Jefferson. And
Yeah.
what if he goes up to try to moss somebody undercuts him, and he comes down and boom, torn ACL?
Yeah.
Like, what happens then? So I think there's that side of it, and kind of like you were saying of uh, what are they really trying to show? But I do think one thing that will happen, because America will 100% overreact, is if the flag football guys do go over and they don't win gold,
Oh,
you
it's over.
will, yeah, the country won't hear it, but you will 100%, every sports channel will be talking about how we need to send NFL. I,
Yep.
I think the better answer, even with NIL, is I think we should be able to send um, our like SEC and Big Ten college guys over, because even they're going to be far superior athletes. And I think of what's a kid, Ryan Williams from Alabama, who's a freshman from
Yeah,
Alabama.
yeah,
Yes, yeah, like
yeah, insane.
sitting that kid over, and there's going to be nobody in the entire world who's going to be able to guard him, because
Uh-huh.
there's probably half the DBs in the NFL right now can't guard him. Let alone 2 years from now when he's able to go in the NFL, there's going to be 3 or 4 guys who can maybe hold that kid in check if he pans out to be who he is. So those are the two biggest things I thought about. Are just the NFL owners maybe not wanting to assume the risk of NFL players
Uh-huh.
going over, and if the USA doesn't win gold, that they're instantly going to want to send over NFL or college D1 players over to play in that league for the 2032 Olympics or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I get, and like you said, the nuances, but like, have you watched any of the videos of like
Yeah,
the quarterback for like the team or whatever?
yeah,
Like, have you? It just don't look athletic, dude. Like, I see
yeah,
it, and I think like I don't know. I think guy that's an accountant at the beach with his kids and he's throwing the football with them. That's the image that I get in my head. But I don't know, man. It's interesting.
Well, I actually, when I was in college, and I actually got in trouble because I played my travel ball coach. So my last travel ball coach in high school, when I was going to college, I played summer ball going into college. Mike Backus, he was actually the head of rival scouting for the Southeast Division, but he
Yeah,
pretty
on the
much had
football.
Florida, Georgia, yeah,
Hold on. Yeah,
and
okay, we're gonna have to talk about this later because I played for Bacchus on the Freshwater Storm, and
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
believe
I
we've
played for
never put
Backus
two.
too. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my guy. I
Okay.
just talked to him
Wow.
like 2 days ago. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
So
I'll
Mike
share.
actually invited me to he lived in Jacksonville. I don't know if he
Yeah.
still, yeah. Or actually, sorry, he lives in Daytona. But he actually invited me to play a couple flag football tournaments in Jacksonville. And, again, I was like a 6'5", I was like a low 6'5", 60 guy.
Hmm.
So I was probably the fastest guy out there. And I primarily played receiver, and I also, for some reason, I could throw a football way better than I could throw a baseball. But I primarily played wide receiver, and I got out there, and I probably scored 3 to 3.5 touchdowns every game, and I was virtually unguardable. And I was a linebacker, safety in high school football, baseball outfielder. And I know these weren't the lead of the league flag football guys, but I think about the level of athlete I was, and I was a pretty good athlete, but I wasn't, a wide receiver in high school, and I still
No.
dominated those guys. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. The one thing I did think about is I hope the flag football tournament doesn't turn out to be. I hope it's closer to like what volleyball is in the Olympics, which is
Hmm.
like a real Olympic competitive sport that's taken very seriously. I hope it's closer to like what volleyball is, and not closer to like what we got last year with the breakdancing, where the
Yeah.
level of athlete is a complete joke,
Yeah.
and there's just a
Yeah.
lot of memes that come out of it.
Well, and here's my issue too, and this is the last thing I'll say about it. But you just brought up a really good point that I think a lot of people don't think about is you're gonna have these guys that are gonna go play flag football or whatever that are gonna think that they can do it in the NFL, and we're gonna have to hear about it. Like, oh, I could do this in the NFL. No, you
Yeah.
couldn't. You
No.
get put on your ass every single down. You go just keep playing flag football. That's an issue that's gonna arise potentially.
Yeah. And honestly, let's say they win gold, and one of those guys does say it.
Oh
I think
God.
an NFL team should 100% invite him out to training camp
Oh yeah.
and give him full go.
Oh, full go. Just
Yeah.
straight pads. Here you go,
Yeah.
dude. Like you're an
Yeah.
elite athlete. Here you go, brother.
Pat McAfee should cover it too, and
Oh,
that'll get clicks and views out the wazoo.
it'd be hilarious.
Yeah. All right. So let's transition into, I guess, more of a general sports topic, even though it's primarily more based around basketball, but it's kind of has more matriculated into um, for quarterbacks in the NFL, and then some of your like all timer baseball players. Even I think it affects baseball player legacies the least. Is question is ring culture toxic? Because I think, and I'll let you go, but I'll just give, I think, how it affects each sport differently. I think it's most prominent in basketball,
Uh-huh.
and I think it's the only reason that it's honestly has become prominent is because of how dominant Jordan was and how he won his rings, how he won them in two separate Trinity consecutive runs, because there's players who have more rings than him who are all-time greats that aren't considered the greatest, and like
Uh-huh.
Bill Russell and Kareem
Yeah.
Abdul-Jabbar. Uh, and then you have guys who have showed greatness like LeBron James, who a lot of people say one or two, three, whatever. But LeBron has basically curated his whole career to trying to win as many rings as possible. But
Uh-huh.
and I say curate because he has probably made more moves than any superstar in the pursuit of that.
Uh-huh.
And you say Kobe is probably number two, but at least Kobe stayed with the same franchise and worked with that franchise to do it, which I think is a different process to how LeBron did it. And honestly, LeBron after this year could be with another
Uh-huh.
franchise to have tried to pursue that as well. So then we get into football, where I think is more of a skill position and skill position, but more importantly, like a quarterback stat, because
Uh-huh.
probably one of the most polarizing guys last year in the Hall of Fame debate was Eli Manning, because he has two Super Bowl wins against Tom Brady in the height of his career and the height of the Patriots' dominance, but his his career stats couldn't be any more mediocre than what a quarterback's career stats are, and
Yeah.
he is going to be, and the NFL along with MLB is probably the two hardest of the three Hall of Fames to get into, because people forget the basketball Hall of Fame is not the NBA Hall of Fame, it's the basketball Hall of Fame. So they take into your college career too. If you had a great college career plus a good to great NBA career, you will make it into the basketball Hall of Fame. Um, but the ring culture primarily, like I said, affects quarterbacks the most. And then you get into some debates of like wide receivers who were dominant but never won a ring. Because
Uh-huh.
obviously they were dominant. You're probably two most notable are um, Calvin Johnson and Randy
Uh-huh.
Moss.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson was not even close. Randy Moss was as close as you can get, going through probably one of the greatest offensive seasons ever, one of the most dominant offenses by a quarterback and a wide receiver ever, and being undefeated all the way to the Super Bowl to lose to Eli Manning and the Giants. And then, but it really doesn't affect running backs. Running backs are going to make it into the Hall of Fame whether they have a ring or not.
Yeah.
And then in baseball, it's more so for like the ultra elite guys. Like now people are going to are kind of are you got A Rod, who was probably one of the more polarizing guys for a long time. But I
Uh-huh.
think the narrative around all time greats in baseball players, I think the line is, are they a great postseason performer, because baseball has so
Yes.
many things you can't control. Because nobody has ever said anything about Barry Bonds never winning a title, because we
Uh-uh.
saw him hit 400 with three home runs in the World Series, the two World
Uh-huh.
Series he was in, and so you don't deny that the Giants came up short because of Barry Bonds, but A-Rod and Aaron Judge are seen differently because both of them seem to quote unquote choke in their playoff and World Series run that can't get it done until they finally do, as we saw A-Rod do in 2009. So with all that
Yeah.
being said, give me your thoughts on the whole ring culture take.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, but I think you got to also look at it in a different kind of light. I think it's more prominent in basketball because if you do have one dominant player, you can make a really good run. I think that's the reason you see that, and you look at baseball and you look at basketball or football. A lot more team sports, a lot more. I mean, I'm not saying basketball is not a team sport, but 11 guys on the field, 9 guys on the field. Like it's a lot different. And especially you talk about roster size, everything. But I do think you've hit the nail on the head of like where it's prominent in each sport. And I do think in baseball, people. I think where it becomes, as far as I think it matters a little bit as far as like one of the all-time greats. If you're talking in baseball and you're talking about like this generation that we live in now, because like, are people going to consider Bryce Harper an all-time great without a ring? You know, he's had really good seasons, but Mike Trout's clearly the better player without a ring as well. So there's little like nuances to the ring culture that you could take away from
Yeah.
each, which I think is interesting. And I do think that it is a little toxic in that, especially in the basketball culture, like you got LeBron, just that's all he's chasing is a ring, and he has made so many moves. And I always like to play like devil's advocate. And if LeBron was with the Bulls his entire career, and Jordan had gone to 4 different teams and had all these different superstars, who are we calling? Who are we calling the best player ever? Are we calling LeBron the best player like unhandedly? You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things, man. I think everybody's gonna have their opinion, and that's kind of the great part about having this kind of platform is everybody has their opinion that they're entitled to. But I do think it is a little bit toxic, and I think it's got to get away from that, and you got to recognize the greats as the greats.
Yeah. I think it's toxic just in because when I think of greatness, especially on an individual player basis, I judge players more on their actual individual playoff performances
Hmm.
and like what they did to get their teams through the playoffs and how they came up short or didn't come up short, and then like their clutch time stats as well. Again, like you're in a game 6, a game 7, you're inside of 5 minutes, and the game was within 3 points. Do you go ghost, or are you the guy willing your team to wins or getting or at least have your team in position to win? Because I think
Hmm.
that's a totally different deal. Because again, I think of a guy who gets a really bad rap, primarily probably one of the best offensive regular season players ever, and one of the statistically, it's just arbitrarily speaking, one of the worst playoff performances ever is James Harden, because we literally watch him year after year. We have over a decade sample size of him shooting 30%, only scoring 9 points in a game 6 or in an elimination game in general, and
Hmm.
him consistently coming up short. And I think if James Harden was dropping 35 points a game in every elimination game and the team was losing, we would look at him differently in that context. So I think ring culture is toxic just from the standpoint of like LeBron James. I think going back, I saw stats. I think LeBron James has had like 3 total bad playoff series in his entire 22 career.
Hmm.
So what do you say? He's clutch or not clutch, or hits the game 1 shot or not? Like LeBron James has objectively only had 3 bad playoffs. He didn't even, I think 2 of those 3 he lost. One of those he won, but he's only had 3 bad playoff seasons in, I think, 19 years of going to the playoffs. So
Hmm.
objectively, he is a great playoff performer, and I think that's a strong point in like how great of a player he is in general. Where again, like you take a guy like one of my favorite players, and it's why I give him a little bit hard time, is a player like Tracy McGrady, who is not as bad as James Harden, but Tracy McGrady can never even get out of the first round when he was the guy in Orlando and when he was the guy
And
for the
Houston.
Houston Rockets. So again, I think that's where the line. I think that's closer to how players should be judged.
Hmm.
But I think this whole argument is even what is created by LeBron because he has tried to change the narrative. He has tried to move the goalpost so much on how the greatest players should be judged that
Uh-huh.
that's what this has turned into over the last 10 to 15 years while we're trying to figure out who the greatest quarterback really is and who the greatest basketball player is. And the greatest quarterback is indisputably Tom Brady, and it's Patrick Mahomes is polarizing because he seems to only be the guy who even has a shot, and
Uh-huh.
he's still at best maybe halfway there, maybe 45% of his way on there. But he's the only guy who even has a shot to seem like he could get close to what Tom Brady did. But in
Yeah.
basketball, the really only true debate in sports of GOAT is LeBron James and Michael Jordan.
Uh-huh. No, I agree. I agree. I mean, you even looked at it, and it's gotten so bad now that, like, I mean, I don't remember these days because I was too young for them. But you go back to John Stockton and Karl Malone in Utah, and if we lived in the culture, I mean, if the culture was different, if winning culture wasn't as toxic, we'd probably call those guys some of the greats, and they lost to. I mean, and look at what they did. They had great playoff runs. It just they had to play against Michael Jordan and the Bulls every single time.
Yeah. And
As
the thing about that though is your Charles Barkley's because Charles Barkley still to this day gets made
yeah,
fun of for not having won a ring, and
uh
he's the
huh,
first person to say he's like, dude, I lost to Michael Jordan twice. Like, what do you want me to do? Like,
yeah,
and he's like, Michael's my boy. Michael's the greatest. He was like, I played in the wrong era. But a lot of those guys who did come up short, Shaq and Penny, but Shaq ended up getting some. But Shaq and Penny they both had a wide open window when Jordan wasn't in the league, and both made it to the finals, and they lost to Hakeem Olajuwon. But
uh
then
huh,
your probably your next few guys of uh, Gary Payton, who ended up winning one at the end of his career with a different team, and then like you said, Stockton and Malone. Both of them came up short twice, facing Jordan, and but they were criticized because they did come up short. But it's just not as polarizing as what some of the more modern guys have had to deal with.
uh huh. Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting.
All right, so let's transition, I guess, into football back again. And this past Monday, NFL coaches, executives, and scouts came out with their top 10 quarterbacks in the league. And I'm going to go from 10 down to one
Uh huh.
and naming them.
Okay.
So this is how they have them ranked going into the 2025-2026 season. At number 10, we have Baker Mayfield. At number 9, we have Jalen Hurts. At 8, we have Jared Goff. At 7, we have Justin Herbert. At 6, we have Matthew Stafford. At 5, we have Jaden Daniels. 4, Lamar Jackson. 3, Joe Burrow. 2, Josh Allen. And number 1, 5 years or 6 years running, or yeah, 6 years running is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, you just love throwing in that 6 years running, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you love it. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. Um, Interesting. I'm surprised that Tyler Shuck or whatever wasn't on there with his
Yeah.
guaranteed deal, dude. That
Yeah.
guy's just, he's tearing it up. He
I
got his
know.
guaranteed deal. Anyway, I'll get off my smart ass for a second. No, interesting list. Interesting that Jared Goff is above Jalen Hurts. That one kind of stood out to me. Also interesting that Justin Herbert is above both of those guys. That's also an interesting one. Interesting as well that Joe Burrow is sitting at the 3 spot. There was another one that stood out to me. Oh, and then Jaden Daniels sitting at the 5 spot. That's a little high. Is a little high. So very interesting. What? Give me your
I, I,
thoughts.
I think to give just a little bit of context is like I said, this is going into the season, so I think this is how they're predicting the quarterbacks will project out into this year of like Jaden Daniels will basically basically still be like the first or second best quarterback out of the NFC this year, and Stafford being there right there, and like they continue to project out Justin Herbert is going to be a guy to finally break through, even though he literally has zero accolades in his career. But
Yeah.
I'm with you. The same exact thing stuck out to me. I don't know how. Joe Burrow making it to one Super Bowl in 2021 or 2022. I think it's 2022. Joe Burrow making it to one Super Bowl in 2022, despite missing the playoffs more than he's made the playoffs, despite the reason is in front of a two-time MVP.
Yes.
It could be three-time MVP. Who has made it to an AFC Championship game before? I get it. Joe Burrow gets a lot of credit for taking down Patrick Mahomes and going to the Super Bowl. And some people say he's one play away, but I say one play came up one play short of winning that Super Bowl. Um, the Jaden Daniels thing doesn't really bother me. I'd still struggle after 1 year having a 1 year guy being a top five. That is what it is. I'm much more up in arms of well, one, I'll give credit. I think Baker should be a top 10 guy. So I'm just
Yes.
glad to see him in there. I definitely think he deserves that. Um, I'll say this Jalen Hurts should, at worst, should be in front of Justin Herbert and Jared Goff.
At
Uh,
worst, I mean, I'm thinking, dude, he should at least be in
yeah,
that 5 spot.
that's what I'm
Like
saying.
at
At
least.
worst. At
Yeah.
worst. And her, honestly, I wouldn't have Justin Herbert in the top 10 because for the guy, for the couple playoff, he has probably two of the worst playoff. Well, on this list, he has by far the two worst playoff performances we've seen.
Uh-huh.
We saw them up 4 touchdowns against Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars and lose that game. And then we saw him throw he threw more interceptions in one playoff game than he did the entire regular season last year. I think that just says, and I think he had 23 throwing touchdowns last year. And I get it, that's how they play the game, that number one scoring defense. But for a quarterback to have that little production, and I get it, they love a part of it is they throw in the attributes. They love his size, they love his throwing mechanics, they love how he looks
Uh-huh.
and the eye test and all that. But at some point, production and accolades have to matter.
Have
Um,
to.
I've seen Jared Goff get to a Super Bowl. I've seen him make it to an NFC Championship game in recent history. I don't mind him, and I've seen him pioneer a back-to-back top three scoring offense in the league. So again, obviously situations matter. Some guys are bus drivers, some guys are bus riders, but it's still at the end of the day of how well you're able to produce and how deep into the playoffs can you get and how many awards are you winning. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe. I think it should be Patrick, Josh, Lamar, then Joe. Um, because I do think Joe does benefit from how bad. I think Joe has benefited just similar to Dak that they're constantly chasing points with how
Uh-huh.
bad their defenses are, and it allowed their stats to possibly be better than what they are. And I'm not even going to get into the weapons that he's allotted because I'm not going to use that against him because then I would have to use it against Jalen, and I think Jalen orchestrating. I'm not going to penalize Jalen because he has a top three GM, a top two wide receiver deal, top two running back, a top offensive line, and one of the top five defenses. Because he's still we've seen him in the playoffs have some of the best quarterbacking performances in the playoffs in the
Uh-huh.
2 years that they've gone to the Super Bowl, and I've watched him outplay Patrick Mahomes squarely in both of those Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So again, I'm with you. I think Jalen at worst should be in front of those guys, but really he should be in that five spot. I
Uh-huh.
don't mind dropping Jaden Daniels. I think the only one who's probably accurately rated outside of the top, what the three guys should be, is
Stafford.
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
I think if Matthew Stafford is 3, 4 years younger, he's probably 3 or 4 on this list.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's just an age thing, and it's like any season could be his last season, and he honestly could be one arm injury because I know he's already had an elbow injury and a shoulder injury that both have required surgery, even though he still has a hose for an arm. But that's kind of my take on the list and how I looked at it. I know the two honorable mentions were uh, Jordan Love at 11 and
Uh-huh.
CJ Stroud at 12.
Uh-huh.
So those were guys
Yeah.
that just missed the list. I think
Yeah.
Brock Purdy was going to be 13 on that list.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I mean, The glaze for Justin Herbert, and what it is, dude, is it's
Yeah.
a hardball thing. They want Harbaugh to be good, and dude, don't get me wrong, like, I want Harbaugh to have success in the league and this, that, and the other. I mean, but I think they're taking too much into account on what ifs and not what is. And that's what you kind of have to take into account because you're talking about, they got Amarian Hampton. They have Najee Harris, correct? Am I correct with the Chargers?
He
Well,
is.
might not have Najee Harris
Yeah.
because my man wanted to play with fireworks. He needed to
Yeah.
put it in reverse Terry and get the hell out of there, but
Yeah.
he didn't. I mean, so they're looking at a lot of a lot of what ifs, a lot of hopefulness, I guess. Which if that's the case, then shit, throw Kyler Murray in that sumbitch too. I
Yeah.
mean, if we're gonna throw what ifs out there and be hopeful on shit, throw Gardner Minshew in there. Why not? Trevor Lawrence, who cares?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm getting at. Is you can't do it on the what ifs. I think you got to do it on the what is, and you got to kind of tip your cap to what guys have done in the league.
Yeah. I mean,
Personally,
especially because he's been in the league 5 years, not been one or two. We have a
yeah,
5 year sample size, and you could probably say still his best year was his rookie year, and I think his
yeah.
third year is probably his second best year or first best year. So we're still saying like only 2 out of his 5 years have truly been impressive. And I get it through five. He has the most passing yards, the most passing touchdowns, and maybe best completion percentage through the first 5 years of his career. But I also
Gotcha.
discount that a lot of guys who are the best quarterbacks of all time didn't start at all their first year or even their second
Mm,
year. So there's not a whole lot of guys who come out and start as a rookie other than like Peyton Manning. And I believe Peyton Manning is two on that list and Andrew Luck is third on that list. That's two of the guys who started from day one and had to kind of work through the trenches to get through there. Um, but man, let's get to our last topic. We're doing really good on time. We're about 45 minutes now. And I know we wanted to talk about sports gambling and kind of its place in the kind of political world. It started bleeding to the political world a little bit, but just more in the total sports sphere. And I guess we'll start off one with player gambling. We will stay away from all the Pete Rose stuff, but I think it's been a lot more prominent in the basketball world, as you've had these guys who aren't making the big bucks who have recently been getting busted. Um, yeah, God, what's Michael? We have Michael Porter Jr.'s brother.
you
He's
talking about
been
Jonte? Isn't it
yeah,
Jonte
Jonte. Yeah,
Porter?
Jonte.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I kept wanting to say Javante Murray, but yeah, Jonte Porter, who's been banned from the NBA, and
Uh-huh.
you still have. I know he's been acquitted on some of his charges, but you still have an open case on Terry Rozier and most recently Malik Beasley, who is currently under investigation for sports gambling, and a lot of it is these weird, untimely, random bets that go up in these middle of the week games. And I know I saw it just pop up like Malik Beasley, I believe, had a game last season when he was on the Pistons where I believe they were playing like the Sacramento Kings on like a Thursday in the middle of a season. And for like a 28-minute period, FanDuel saw a influx of like Terry Rozier prop bets at about a 281% increase, which is just
Uh-huh.
obviously that's a huge red flag and is one of the many things that have popped up. But man, how do you feel about sports gambling, especially with players? Do you feel like it has a place? Do you think it's going to continue to be a problem, or do you think they're going to get a handle on it? Like, where are you at with it?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I do. I mean, I have sports bet in my time. I'm not. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm as into it as maybe what you are. Like I know that you enjoy, laying out some bets, and I have buddies that do as well. I think it's interesting where we're at with sports betting because you're seeing all these cases and everything and these investigations and all this and all that. And every time you go on to Sports Center, it talks about this episode is brought to you by ESPN Bet. Go online. And it's like, damn, y'all, like, are you trying to get people in trouble? Like, I don't understand it. So it's very interesting to see. And it's just I think it's going to continue to be a trend until they figure out a way, and I don't think there is. I think you're going to continue to see it. It started with Shohei, went to Jonte Porter, Malik Beasley, Terry Rozier. I mean, you can take it all the way back to Pete Rose. I mean, the one credit, I mean, I know we're not going to go deep diving into it, but the credit I'll give to him is he bet on himself to win.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing these little prop bets of, I'm going to get a hit tonight, or, I'm only going to play 3 innings, whatever it is. So it's interesting, man. I don't know if there's a place for it with these players doing it. It's tough because you have these guys, especially like you're looking at it now, when they were kind of coming through college, they might have been able to get away with it with a bookie or whatever, and it didn't really matter. And now you're looking at it, and these guys make so much money. Why would you risk anything making that much money on a silly prop bet, even if it's not on your sport? Like, at that point, dude, bet your buddy that, hey, man, like, I'm going to bet you $500 that this happens. Okay, cool. Like, keep it like that. That's how they did it in the 80s. That's how they did it in the 90s, I'm sure. Like, keep it that way. I don't know, man. It's really interesting because you're seeing all these cases and betting is thrown at you every single day. I mean, every time you turn on something with sports, it's BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, ESPN Bet, whatever else you want to go with. So I think it's interesting. I would love to hear your thoughts because you're more of a bettor than I am, and I want to know what you kind of think about these players doing it.
Well, I will always stay on the more pure side of sports. Um, I'm always for like innovation of making the game more efficient from a time standpoint, from a viewership standpoint. But that's more so like changing rules. Like again, you go some more like baseball. Like I wasn't somebody who was up in arms of having the DH in both leagues. Because
Uh-huh.
again, I think that makes the game better. I don't want to watch a pitcher hit
Uh-huh.
who never hit. And again, it's like if a pitcher can't hit like Zach Greinke or Paul Skeens, and they want to hit, and they're your best pitcher, and you're paying them $40 million, let them hit because it's probably going to make them happier, and they probably will pitch better. But if you don't have that, put a better hitter in there, and it makes the game better.
Uh-huh.
Um, so you have that side of the purist, but then the more the true pure side of me is I don't think two things. I don't think performance enhancers should ever be in sports. I think I think the shelf life of an athlete should stay 100% intact and let the body go through its natural progressions without any form of enhancements. Now, if
Uh-huh.
you want to maximize your diet, your sleep optimization, your red blood cell count, cryo chamber, all that, like do all that stuff naturally. Keep performance enhancers out. And I don't think sports gambling should ever be illegal or even lightly tolerated because you're going to affect outcomes of games, which affects people at multiple levels. But again, from a fan viewership standpoint, even if it's in a meaningless game in the middle of the season, uh, I think it takes away from the viewership of the game and the fun of the game. Um, but I think I don't think this will be like the end of sports gambling, especially in the football is way too hard. There's way too many people on the field, way too many
Uh-huh.
moving parts to ever try to. I think you just be a fool. And then football is one sport where violence. I think football and like NHL are still there's violence in hand. So it's like when if you're somebody that tries to cheat the game, somebody could still like physically try to take you out and it still be a part of the game. And it's not like
Uh-huh.
basketball where it's like you swing on a basketball player, you're probably gonna get banned, suspended
Yeah.
20 games. If football, you swing on a guy, you're gonna get a 1 game. You're probably just gonna get kicked out and maybe a
Yeah.
fine, not miss a game.
Yeah.
Even if you're trying to target a guy,
I
even a
mean, even
college.
look at Miles Garrett. I mean, Miles Garrett took his helmet off, didn't start
Yeah.
beating the shit out of Mason
Yeah.
Rudolph, and my man's getting
Yeah.
paid. Like, come on
Yeah.
now.
Exactly. Um, but I think in basketball and baseball, it will continue to be a thing. But I think guys will continue to be busted because there's as many guys that sports gamble and as much money has been made. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it'll probably continue to grow and grow and grow and proliferate more. There's as many sharks out there that they will notice that game between the Kings and Atlanta Hawks on the Tuesday night in December that all of a sudden now Trey Young, and there's not any knock, but Trey Young all of a sudden has 8 turnovers in a row, and FanDuel or DraftKings has realized, oh my gosh, there's over and under of Trey Young to score 18 points this game, and he's magically turned the ball over in the second half 8 times in a row. Wait, there's 40,000 being bet on his over and under in like a 2 minute
Yeah.
period. They're gonna notice this stuff, and they have
Yeah.
technology to know, just like turnitin.com with your English papers. So
Yeah.
I think you're taking a huge gambling risk with your career and your livelihood of trying to gamble on prospect. But like you said earlier, well, you play dumb games, you get dumb results or whatever.
Oh yeah, you play stupid games, you're gonna win stupid prizes. I mean,
Yeah,
dude, and you even think about like, look at these coaches. Like the coach that got caught for what was it, Alabama, wasn't it? And the guy in Cincinnati that had. Do you not remember that story breaking? It
no,
broke. It broke a while back. It broke a while back because we talked about it in the gym. I'm almost positive, but yeah, like I think it was the Alabama coach. I'm almost positive. If memory serves me right, I could be wrong, but basically was giving information to a guy in Cincinnati. The guy in Cincinnati was doing it. They caught it in Cincinnati. The guy from Cincinnati pretty much was like, "Yep, it was this coach right here. He told me what to do."
oh
And
yeah,
then like
yeah.
shit like that, you're just like, dude, like how dumb are you? Like I don't know, man. And I think it comes down to like you said, like we said, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and maybe that's the title of this episode or this little snippet. But you just at some point, man, have some sense. I mean, we could do probably a whole podcast on, professional athletes doing just dumb shit. And you just don't, it doesn't make sense because you're like, you have all this money and you have all this notoriety. Why would you do that? But that's neither here nor there. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think it's going to continue to be an issue, and we'll just have to see what shakes out of it.
All right, brother. Hey, one more story before we close out. I saw this 2 days ago, and I'm starting to see it trend a lot more now, and I'm interested to see if this really gains ground to make it to some of the bigger sports shows early this week. But the former MLB player D. Gordon, you remember D. Gordon, the
Of
speedster?
course. Yes.
So did you see he did an interview, I think like Tuesday or Wednesday, about his conspiracy that the year he got busted for PEDs, that the MLB had come out early in the season, told him not to win the hitting title that year, because he wasn't. So that was a contract year for him, and I
Okay.
believe he won a Silver Slugger, he won the batting title, and he won the steals record. But some, I guess, MLB officials told him not to win the hitting title because Bryce Harper was due to win the Triple Crown that year, and they want. I think this was 2016, and they really wanted Bryce Harper to win the Triple Crown that year for obviously marketing reasons and all that. And when D. Gordon didn't back down and he won the hitting title, that next offseason was when he got busted for PEDs and that they planted it on him.
Okay, interesting. I can get behind a good conspiracy theory now. I can
Yeah.
I can get let me put on my tinfoil hat. I can get behind a good conspiracy theory. Interesting.
So then, and that's 98% of the details. So because I've watched that interview like 3 or 4 times now.
That's interesting. I would love to know. Man, there's a lot though. You can really deep dive like if you want to jump on that conspiracy train, like you can deep dive because there's one about David Ortiz with the whole, positive drug testing and that list that came out. You remember that
Yeah,
list with A-Rod
yeah,
and Manny and all that? Yeah.
yeah.
There's some shit there.
Who else was on that
Um,
list?
Pujols was on that list, and dude, it's another good thing. Have you seen? I forget the sports writer's name. You'll know who I'm talking about. White dude, glasses. He's been on a bunch of podcasts recently, but he's been talking about like Barry Bonds and how much of a dick Bonds was, and
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but I know who you're
I
talking
can't
about.
think of his name.
Yeah,
But no, dude, like him talking about like, he was all against Bonds being in the Hall of Fame, and not just because he was a dick, but he didn't feel like steroid users should be in. And then talking about, I'm trying to remember who recently got in that was kind of known. Oh, it was Pudge. He was like immediately when Pudge got put in,
yeah,
he was like, yeah, put Bonds in. Like if you're gonna
yeah,
allow one cheater in, you should let the other cheaters in. Like
yeah.
Bonds should be in it, no doubt. There's a lot of conspiracy theories and a lot of different sports that you could really start to deep dive and go down. I saw one the other day that's actually really interesting about the Black Sox. Or not the Black Sox, the White Sox, but you remember they called them the Black Sox
Yeah.
for the throwing the World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one the other day that was like, yeah, that it was pretty deep dive, but yeah, that's interesting about D Gordon. I'm curious to see if there's any, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say any truth behind it, I guess,
Yeah.
which we'll never know because the MLB is not going to allow that to come out. But we'll see. But speaking of not coming out, then this will be for the viewers. Did you happen to see the Shane Gillis?
Yeah. I meant to bring
Yeah.
this up in the beginning, but yeah.
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 What'd you think?
Man, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought he nailed it. I don't know if he could have done any better. Obviously, he could have done worse, but I don't think he could have nailed it any better. I think all of his jokes landed. I don't think he had any bad jokes. I think if you're scaling on 1 to 10, I think his worst joke was probably a 7 to 7.5, and his best joke was probably a 9, 9.5.
Yeah.
Um,
Give me so I'll give you my worst joke that I heard, and
yeah,
then I'll give you my best one because I watched it. I
yeah,
watched the full thing.
yeah,
So the worst one I heard was the Donald Trump and Juan Soto with
yeah,
ice.
yeah.
That was the
That was
worst one. I
yeah,
was like, ooh,
yeah,
I was like that one.
yeah.
I didn't. That one was tough. The best one was the Megan. No, I take that back. I was gonna say the Megan Rapinoe, but the best one, and I think you'll agree with me, was his buddy's wife
Yeah,
that was in the stands, and he
yeah,
goes, "Hey, everybody, please welcome six-time WNBA All-Star, such and such, such and such." No, she's actually just my buddy's girlfriend, but you guys wouldn't. Hilarious.
yeah,
But give me. I mean, I think we're kind of in agreement on best and worst there, but I
yeah.
thought it was top tier, dude. I thought it was really good.
I think a 1B to the 1A of the best joke were the two Caitlin Clark jokes about.
Yeah.
I think it was two of them back to back that I don't even know if they were back to back, but I know he said two Caitlin Clark Joseph. One, he said we're both Midwest kids who are known for nailing threes,
Yeah.
and then when she retires, she's gonna go work at Waffle House so she can beat up black girls.
Yeah, so
Uh,
she can do what she loves
yeah,
doing and fighting
yeah,
black women.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you
So
hear
yeah,
Drewski in the stands too? Go, hell yeah, brother.
yeah.
I was like,
Drewski was probably his biggest advocate the whole time while
oh,
he was up
dude,
there.
Drewski's
Yeah.
so funny. But, well, man, that was good. That was good.
Yeah, good podcast, brother. A little bit different today, but we're 100% in the dog days now of sports. But
Yes.
NFL training camps, some have already. I think two teams have already started. I know the Chargers did, and another team did. I know the Chargers. Somebody else started, but all teams will be officially in camp by Tuesday, and I think 2 weeks from yesterday we'll have the Hall of Fame game. So we're only 2 weeks away
Mm.
from our first Hall of Fame game, 3 weeks away from our first preseason game, and like 42 days from the start of the actual NFL season, which college football season started in the week before that. One question, like I promise y'all, we're gonna do maybe the Sunday, maybe maybe one of the two Sundays in August before the NFL season starts, but if you have I think this is a question I've been asking a lot. Yeah, I honestly think it's kind of the hardest pick in the draft is the number one pick
Yeah.
in fantasy football. So if you have the number one pick, who are you going with and why? Or at least do you have a thought? If you can't give me why, do you have a thought process on how you try to go about your first pick or first round draft pick?
I'm trying to think, dude. I mean, I'd want somebody that I feel like is in a good offense with a weak strength of schedule that you don't want to take a quarterback ever.
Yeah.
You always want to take, and I think it's got to be like either a running back or like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type that kind of does a little bit of everything on a football field. Um, man, I would say probably Saquon, Derrick Henry, or like a Bijan Robinson. But again, this comes into play for me anyway, and I don't know how many other people, but one thing that you always want to look at, like with Bijan, right? You're playing in the South with Tampa and New Orleans
Yeah, and
and
Carolina.
Carolina. So my thing is like that's a weak conference. Like you might be able to do some damage there, especially with Michael Penix, and that would probably be like my RB. Like that would probably be my number one pick personally.
Yeah.
The other one, like the more because like I've been sorry,
Right.
thank you. I've been keeping up and like doing a lot more research this year because I kind of fell off before last year. But like trying to like see like strength of schedules and like who has got a pretty easy run to the playoffs and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's got to be. I think in today's game and today's fantasy and how much touchdowns are worth and everything else, I think it's got to be a running back.
Yeah.
And you just kind of pick your litter. I don't know. I kind of messed up. Well, I didn't mess up last year. Your team messed up, but Pacheco getting hurt killed me last year. I really like Pacheco, but it is what it is. So, but I took him on raw, I think, with my first round pick. And he had a great season. It just wasn't enough. I had to deal him off. But who would yours be right now?
So I guess some of the things that I consider are one, year in, year out productive guys. I don't want guys that if you look at a 4 year sample, 6 year sample,
Mm-hmm.
they're up and down. That's why a
Yeah.
guy like Saquon scares me because he's coming off a year where when running backs come off the year where they're number one in touches or number one and two in touches, and they go for a lot of yards, they normally have some sort of a drop off, i.e., uh, Achan and Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
So I take kind of that into, and that's why a guy like Saquon scares me a little bit, and a guy like Derrick Henry is just like, even when Derrick Henry leads the league in rushing, and like there's not still not a huge drop off, and Derrick Henry has no little to no injury history, and Saquon does have an injury history.
Yeah.
Um, so I look at strength of schedule like you. I look at how good or bad their defense is,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's a wide receiver that I want to take, but they're always leading a lot and they're going to be
Yeah.
rushing the ball a lot in the half, it's like if they don't get their money in the first half, like you might be screwed. That's why like AJ Brown is like kind of a like that weird first round quality guy because the Philly is leading a lot and Saquon gets a
Mm-hmm.
lot of touches. And if AJ Brown doesn't get 90 yards and a touchdown in the first half, his production drops off a lot. Um,
Yeah.
so my thought process is like strength of schedule, how good or bad their defense is. There's like a guy that you look at that I think is going to be a top 10 running back is like Chase Brown with the Bengals because they're always going to be chasing points. He catches a lot of passes. And if they are up, yeah, they'll rush the ball. But when they're down, he's still like the check down. He was like one of the top three check down pass catchers last year in the NFL when he in the
Yeah.
games that he started. But if you had to ask me, my top three guys are probably Justin Jefferson because it's just like doesn't matter who's throwing to him, doesn't matter what year it is, doesn't matter how healthy he is. You know he's going 100 catches, 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdowns. I'm with you. I think Bijan's going to be a top three RB guy. The only thing that scares me about Bijan is that they have Tyler Algier, and he
Mm-hmm.
stole a lot of touchdowns from him last year with the Falcons.
Yeah.
They gave it to Algier a lot on the goal line, which kind of pissed me off last year because I actually had Bijan in one of my leagues.
So who is
Um,
your number one again? Because I'm looking. I've just pulled up fantasy sports.
so my top three picks that I would probably would strongly consider would be Justin, Bijan, and this year because I think they're going to have a bad defense and they were third in their conference would mean their strength of schedule is not going to be that great. Well, and he has a second wide receiver for the first time in his career is going to be CD.
Really? Okay. That wouldn't be my top three, but I like that top three. I
Yeah,
do like that top three because mine would be Justin, Bijan, and Jameer Gibbs.
yeah.
I think Jameer Gibbs is going to take over the load from David Montgomery this year.
I 100% agree with you. The only thing that scares me about Detroit is we have no idea what their office is going to look like with a
Yeah,
completely different offensive coordinator.
yeah,
And
that's
like
true.
Jameer should be the guy, they should get it. And it's like it could also go in the favor of like Jameer is the clear number one, and David Montgomery just kind of the overpaid insurance running back on their team. Like we don't know. So
Mm-hmm.
Jameer is probably the no doubt first round draft pick. That's probably the biggest outlier in that we really don't know how it's really going to be hard to predict his season based off their offensive coordinator. And because I personally have Detroit dropping off a lot this year. And when I say dropping off a lot, I mean going from first in their division to potentially third in their division.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
could have.
The Cowboys defense is not going to be good this year, which means they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, and you won't be able to double team CD if George Pickens being there is only going to help CD. I think CD
Yeah.
can still go 120, 1,700 yards, 13 touchdowns this year.
I think another good one that's going to have a good year this year is Josh Jacobs. I think
Yep.
if he has a healthy year, I think he'll have a good one. I mean, I'm looking at this and they already got Ginty as they're predicting him to be RB5.
Yeah, like literally every league has Gentry no less than five.
Yeah, and then you know who I'm not seeing though is Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren had a good year for me as my like little flex RB2.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand, but especially with Najee Harris gone, like
Well, I think that's because he still might be like the second best running back on their team. Because that rookie that they're drafting in the second round,
yeah,
he could be a stud.
he could be, he
So
could be.
he's still gonna be sharing what I'm saying is I think at best he's still gonna be sharing the load about 50-50 for Pittsburgh.
Let me ask you this question. This is a good fantasy question, and we'll part ways here. But and we can talk about this down the road too. Do you think that the tight end position in fantasy football is a playoff giver or a playoff taker? And the way
I
it's
think
been trending the last couple years, because I think it's a playoff giver. I think a top tier tight end with everything else, like if you have, solid everything else and you have a top end tight end, like, tight end 1 through 3,
yeah.
that's a playoff giver. And I don't think a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on two tight ends.
So my two takes on tight ends is one, it's the most volatile position out of all the ones that truly make a difference.
Uh huh.
Um, and two, it's probably the trendiest year to year because like 2 years ago you had Ferguson, Laporta, McBride, like you had like 8, 9 guys go off, and
Yeah.
it was less top heavy. Then last year it was really top heavy. It was
Very.
Powers, Cade Otton for a little bit, McBride, Hawkinson when he was healthy, but he missed like half the year.
Kraft, the
Kraft,
kid. Yeah.
yeah. And so I personally think tight ends trend back this year, and I think it's kind of like honestly, it's almost like the quarterback. It's like dual threat quarterbacks dominate in fantasy. So like, if you're going to draft a quarterback, you if you want to draft a dual threat quarterback, you got to draft them in the second or third round. So
Uh
Josh Allen, Lamar, Jaden, and Jalen will all be gone by the third round in pretty much every league, if I had to guess, because
huh.
they're so valuable with their legs. But then if you want to, you could wait and go because I'm probably going to go. I'm probably going to depend on how where I draft in the list. I'm probably going to go RB wide receiver because wide receivers are deeper than running backs in my opinion.
Uh huh.
So I'm probably going to go if I play it right RB wide receiver, and then try to probably take the best tight end because I've always gone dual threat quarterback, and I've won a couple leagues doing that and been close. Although last year in our league I did pretty bad. Uh, but I think this is going to be the year that I try to find the Baker Mayfield in the seventh or
Uh
eighth
huh.
round. Joe Burrow is probably going to be the only pure passer that goes pretty high,
Uh
and
huh.
probably Patrick Mahomes. Burrow and Mahomes are the only two pure passers that go super high. But it's like, man, you can get Jared Goff throwing for 44 touchdowns in the ninth round, or Baker Mayfield throwing for 46 touchdowns late, and go heavy on wide receiver and running back. Like that can win you a league. So I think it's just you have to see how things play out because I think I think I think one of my bold takes for fantasy will be Brock Bowers is going to be a top 10 pass catcher, period, this year
Uh-huh.
out of all pass catchers. And Trey McBride is probably going to be a top 20 pass catcher, period, despite the position. And then you're going to have some other guys who could be very interesting, maybe Loveland. But I think uh, but to answer, long story short, to answer your question, I think you just have to see how your draft goes.
Yeah.
'Cause if you can get one of those four elite guys,
Mm-hmm.
it can make a huge difference because they can go off for 25 points a week,
Yes.
some leagues. But if you're lucky, you catch a Cade Otton later in the draft, like Cade Otton could be a valuable pick that you get later on, and that could win you. But then you draft a Mark Andrews who's disappointing, or like what's the Latino guy in our league? Uh,
Suarez.
Suarez, who drafted Travis Kelce in like the third round, fourth round last year. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I love
Yeah.
Kelce, but he is not going to cut it. So you don't
Yeah.
want to overdraft your tight end because that could hurt you if they're not, 90 catches, 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, and see, and I'm kind of flipped on yours. Like, I think you can go get a running back in like the third and fourth round. That's going to be a really good contributor. You can get two running backs. I think that wide receiver position makes a huge difference in the first two
Sorry,
rounds.
you're right. That is actually my.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go wide receiver, running
Yes.
back. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I was flip flop, but that
Yeah.
is my that will try to be my technique. Will be
Yes.
wide receiver, running back, best tight end possible.
Uh-huh.
Unless if Brock Bowers is there, I'm probably gonna go Brock Bowers as
Yeah.
early as possible. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I will go wide receiver, running back, tight end, and then get the best pure passer in the fifth or sixth round, unless I like I don't know what kind of running back, but if like a Tank Bixby for some reason is still there in the fifth round, it's like
Yeah.
Tank Bixby is my third running back. Like, good luck beating me in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or what's the guy
100%.
from the Bucky Irving? I don't. I
Yeah.
think Bucky Irving's gonna be gone, but if a Bucky Irving somehow falls, but like and this would be the last thing, but a guy that's kind of a sleeper. I was talking to John about this. Now that Najee Harris is starting the year on the players unable to perform list,
Yeah.
Marion Hampton on the Chargers with how Jim Harbaugh wants to throw. I'm sorry, how he wants to run the ball and his
Uh-huh.
pass catching ability. Marion Hampton might have just went from sharing the load to being like a top 5 or 6 running back this year.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, dude, and there's another guy out there that I think a lot of people forget, though. And as far as consistency, I think he's very consistent. But James Conner,
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
mean,
that's another guy
consistency,
that yeah.
like, and that's what I'm saying. Like in that
Yeah.
running back, like you get James Conner in the third round or fourth round, and you're chilling.
Yeah.
That I mean, that's how my when I drafted, when I was really playing a lot of fantasy before I moved to Mississippi. But I would always try to go wide receiver, running back, running back. But then last year I messed up and I went wide receiver, running back, and I kind of screwed myself because I took Pacheco early and it didn't work. But I'm excited for fantasy, man. That was a good podcast. I can't wait to keep it rolling. And man, you have a good week.
You too, brother. Good talking to you.
All right, man.
Roll
Peace.
out.